Hey everyone, so I'm driving the Accord right now. I want to go ahead and do a different type of video. Instead of actually talking about the car, I'm going to talk about the car and I'm going to talk about how I feel about the car. So today's video is going to be a 5 dislikes of my Honda Accord. Not specifically my Honda Accord, but the 6th generation Accord in general. The reason I'm going to do this is because I've seen it on YouTube a few times and I actually am very fond of that idea. So let's go ahead and get started. My number 5 least favorite would have to be the interior. Although it is built very well and the materials are very soft to the touch, unfortunately those materials tend to wilt, especially out here in Las Vegas. So with that being said, when it gets really hot, it tends to shrink the vinyl and it will actually cause it to separate. And so I have had to repair my driver's side door panel once, and I also have to get the rear door panel repaired as it has been stabbed in the past. So that's probably my least favorite. Otherwise, everything else about the car I'm actually pretty fond of. But my 4th least favorite item on the car would have to be the lack of low-end torque on these particular vehicles. So the Honda Accord of this generation came with 2 engine options in the United States. You had the 2.3 liter or the 3.0 liter. However, there were different variations of the engines depending on where the car was made. In Canada, you also had the 2.0 liter, but they didn't have that here in the US. You had to have had that imported. So basically, the engine options were the F23 A4, A1A, A5, and the J30 A1, and if I'm not mistaken, it was the J30 A5. The F23 A5 did not come with VTEC, if I'm not mistaken. So with that being said, the lack of low-end torque on this car is actually very noticeable, especially with the air conditioner on. You do have to relatively accelerate it in order to actually get a good acceleration. So around 3,500 to 4,000 RPMs, your car will start to pull a little bit more. The V6 models were a little bit better. However, you do also have to understand that Hondas were never built with a low-end torque, unless these newer cars have been built that way. But it's always been the higher-end torque for these particular vehicles. I would have to say my 3rd least favorite item would have to be the exterior and the body. Although I do love the actual styling, the body itself tends to dent very, very, very easily. And so what you don't want to do is when your door doesn't close all the way, don't booty bounce the door. Because if you do that, then you will end up having a new dent, basically. And the body does dent very, very relatively easy on this car, and obviously newer cars as well. So that'd probably be my least favorite thing that ranks number 3, is the actual fact that the body does dent over time. Unfortunately, that is a common issue with many cars just because of the fact that since Las Vegas has polar opposite weather, hot and cold, the metal does tend to expand and shrink. And with the Japanese vehicles, obviously they're not built as well as the obviously Chryslers and Fords and stuff like that. Their bodies do hold up a lot better in car accidents. So with that being said, that's probably my 3rd least favorite. My 2nd least favorite would have to be the gearing on the transmission. Now, I'm not going to talk about the reliability, considering the fact that we all know that the 6th generation Honda Accord has had its fair share of issues with the transmissions. However, the gearing on them is one of the main reasons why. The car will not downshift to first gear unless you're pretty much at a complete stop. Also, in regards to resuming on an acceleration, it will downshift before it actually gets to upshift again, and it'll pick a gear that is just a little bit too low. For example, right now, my car did just now downshift to first gear. However, you notice that it actually took me almost to be stopped to do that. So if I were to resume on that acceleration, it would have started me in 2nd. Now that actually puts extraordinarily a lot of strain on the actual gears themselves, especially 2nd gear, which is why the V6 and Honda Accord and the Honda Odysseys had this issue. They broke the 2nd gear just due to the fact of the strain. It's like accelerating a manual transmission in too high of a gear. You notice that it stumbles over itself. This is relatively the same concept, you just don't feel it. So when I did get the transmission rebuilt on this car, I did actually have a gear sleeve put on. And also too, if you've noticed, the torque converter lockup feature on this car does not carry all the way down when you're coming to a stop. If you notice that every time around it hit around 40 miles an hour, the torque converter disengages. That's to save fuel, but it also puts a little bit of stress on the actual mechanism itself. So with that being said, the gearing on the transmission definitely is probably my 2nd least favorite thing. It's a good transmission in regards to acceleration, but deceleration is where it stumbles over itself. It tends not to pick the correct gear, and when it does actually shift down, it picks a gear that's too dead, so it'll downshift again to a gear that's just a little bit too low. So unfortunately, that is something we have to deal with as 6th gen owners. But we're gonna go ahead and go to my number 1 least favorite thing now, and that is going to be the lumbar support. This is mainly me being picky. I'm not complaining about this. It's just my least favorite item in the car, due to the fact that on long trips it can get a little bit uncomfortable. Now, mind you, I don't have back problems and I'm not old, so I don't have to worry about, you know, breaking or my back or having a bunch of back pain after I get out of the car. But it can get a little bit uncomfortable, and it's probably my least favorite my least favorite item in this vehicle is the lack of lumbar support. It actually does have lumbar support, but it's never in the right position, so I consider it a lack of lumbar support. But otherwise, it actually does an okay job. Do I have more likes than dislikes about this car? Absolutely, but I just wanted to share with you guys my 5 dislikes of the 6th generation Honda Accord. And also, too, I wanted to share with you guys, you know, my opinions on certain items that were complained about in the past. Not specifically about me, but consumer reviews and stuff of that sort. Lumbar support seemed to be a pretty big one, especially with, you know, elderly people. We do want that lumbar support, but I'm young, so I don't have to worry about it so much. But I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. I have to go celebrate my great aunt's birth. So yeah, she's gonna be 82, or she actually is 82 today. So I'm gonna go there. But you guys have a good one, and I will go ahead and catch you later.